Hi, my name is Arun and welcome to Schmick Photography Tutorials. ShutterSpeed. Okay, so our cameras have a sensor in the back and they have a mirror in between. Okay, now when we look through our eyepiece in the back of our cameras here, there's a mirror here at the top, another mirror down here. So what happens is we're looking through the top, off the mirror, off the next mirror, and looking out through the lens. Okay, so we're actually looking through the lens, not like all your instant cameras where you look through the eyepiece and there's a little hole here which is actually what you see through, and then the lens is below it. Okay, now what happens is the lens lifts up when we push the button. Okay, and this is what allows the light to come in and burn onto the sensor. Okay, now our shutter speed is basically how long that mirror stays up for, okay? How long we're allowing light to come in. Basically what happens is when the mirror comes up, light burns onto the sensor in the back. Okay, so obviously the longer you're burning, the more burnt the sensor gets. So translating this into light means the lighter, the brighter the image is. Okay, so if you leave it open for too long, everything just turns white. If you don't leave it open long enough, everything's too dark. Okay, and this is exposing. You want to expose your shot correctly, so you want your blacks to be black and your whites to be white. Okay, so what we're doing with shutter speed again is we're controlling how long our shutter is open for. Okay, now this is useful in all sorts of ways. Okay, now it's important to figure out when you want to use a fast shutter speed and a slow shutter speed. Okay, it does, as I said before, it affects how much light comes in, but keep in mind from our last tutorial we also have our aperture that we can use to control, so we can balance these two out. So if we want to shoot fast, okay, we can compensate with our aperture. Yeah. If we want to shoot slow, we can again compensate the other direction with our aperture. Let's say you were shooting a car. When the mirror lifts up, when our shutter opens, okay, it's like taking a film. Okay, so if during the period of time that the mirror is up, the object that we're shooting has moved from here to here, that's when we get a blur. So this is our motion blur. Okay, so it's not that it's out of focus, it's that the object that we're taking a picture of has moved during the time at which the light has been burning. So when you're shooting a moving object, you want to be shooting faster. Okay, now with shutter speed we have of a second basically. Okay, so you've got 1/25th of a second, or a 30th of a second, or 2,000ths of a second. Okay, and that's how long, that is literally how long it's open for. Okay, so if you're shooting a car that's moving really, really fast, you want it to be a much quicker shutter speed. All right, so that you can actually freeze frame it. Right. Alternatively, if you do a real slow shutter speed, you could maybe go to the beach or something like that when the sun's setting a little bit. Okay, and if you were to do a quick shutter speed on the waves washing in through the rocks, you'd be able to see the little splashes and drops freezing in the air. Okay, if you were to do a slow shutter speed, what happens is that entire motion gets recorded onto a still image. So the rocks, because they're not moving, okay, they stay sharp and clear. Anything during the time that the shutter is open that moves around becomes a blur. Okay, and that's where you get those beautiful shots of the rocks where it looks like there's this white smoke wafting around. Okay, well that is the water, but because it's been it's been shot over a period of time, okay, it becomes a blur. Okay, it's all got motion blur through it. This is definitely one to play with. We have sort of buffers, so let's say if you are holding your camera handheld without a tripod, you don't usually want to go less than 1/60th of a second. Anything lower than that and you run the risk of getting a motion blur because of your movement, because of your breathing, and because of any shaking. Okay, so generally if you're handheld you want to be shooting 60 or above. With a lot of flashes, you can't shoot faster than 200ths or 250ths of a second because of the speed that the flash goes at, and because of the time it takes for the information to get through to the flash and for it to actually go off. So that's shutter speed. Okay, so make sure you have a play with this one as well. Try doing the wrong thing sometimes. It's good because then you actually know why. So go out and try and take a picture of a moving object, but have a slow shutter speed and see what happens. Sometimes you get a nice shot. A lot of times you can actually use that to your advantage. So, I was saying about taking a picture of a car. What you can do is try following the car, try and keep that car in the center of your frame, And obviously don't do a really slow shutter speed, but do a slower shutter speed. And what will happen is, instead of the car being blurred and the background being sharp, you get the opposite effect. So the car will be sharp because you're keeping it in the center of your frame, but all the surroundings are what's moving and what's giving you motion blur. So you end up with a sharp car in the middle and a background that's all motion blur to the sides. You can try using it on the sky. That's a really interesting one to do at night, especially at night. If you do a really slow shutter speed, what you'll actually find is the camera can actually track the movement of the Earth in relation to the stars. So instead of getting the spots that you expect, if you leave it on the shutter for a really long time, leave it open, you actually get streaks and you can see the direction that the Earth's moving in. So have a play with it, see what you can come up with. Things like water splashing. Go to the tap, get the tap running, put an object under the water and try shooting at a slow shutter speed, try shooting at a really fast one. Go over 2,000ths of a second and you'll get these crisp little droplets popping off. Do as much as you can, make mistakes and have fun. Next tutorial will be ISO. And then once we've done that, we can look at combining our three elements, okay? Our aperture, our shutter speed, and our ISO. And we'll go through how they all relate to each other and how to pick our priorities, what's more important for what it is that we're trying to shoot, okay? So, like, subscribe, check out my other videos, and stay tuned for the next one. I'll see you soon.